2 or 3 years after we started putting the whole pines together, it was a lot closer. But now the sheds have just went through the roof once I started getting away from the open woods and going into the pines now. And the sheds have went up since I've been in the pines more. But it's kind of a sweet spot in there. It's like you start getting into those 13, 15-year-old pines and you're not seeing them no more.
I feel like rabbit hunters are like just by happenstance some of the best shed hunters.
Yep.
In the deep south, just
I agree.
because they're out there during the time of the year when bucks dropping antlers, and they're finding fresh ones, but they're finding a lot of old ones. They're finding a lot of dead heads, and there was a giant dead head I saw that I think came out one of the Carolinas, and it was rabbit hunters found it. I mean, like a 200-inch deer that they found while they were rabbit hunting, and I'm like, and Mr. Benny, the guy we rabbit hunt with, Andrew's mentor, finds so many dead heads, and it's like one of those things like you find a dead head, if you can't put it in your vest, just hang it up, keep hunting, shoot the rabbit, come back, grab it, take it back to the truck, come back out, and it's like, you know, you get done with a rabbit hunt and you might have 3 or 4 sheds, a couple dead heads laying there, and a bunch of rabbits, and it's like just again because they're in the thick stuff, and you're going in the places that kind of like Jonathan, what you were talking about. You're not necessarily trying to walk just because you can't see very far. It's really like you're chasing the dog, chasing a rabbit, and you just happen like you were almost stepping on the antler.
Oh yeah.
And that was like one of the antlers we found this year turkey hunting, or I found this year turkey hunting, was in a burn, and we were making a loop on this bird, had to get on the back side of him, and popped out of some blackberry bushes, and I just caught a glimpse of white off to my left. And I looked over there, and his antler sitting there perfect right there in this burnt ground, and it got burned up, you know, when they lit that fire. And threw it in the vest, went up, killed the turkey. Brother killed the turkey, and then we came back, took some photos of the antler and the turkey. I'm like, this is a pretty cool day. But again, it's one of those areas that, like, I don't know if I would have walked that previously if it wasn't for that turkey being there, but that's how you kind of run across them. And that was one thing I was going to mention in this episode or in this conversation is, if you want to get into shed hunting in the deep south, if you have one of these later ruts, it's really challenging to try to find them super fresh unless you're turkey hunting. You're just out there right around the timing of when they're dropping them. But if you're covering enough distance and also kind of walking through some areas like what we're talking about, like Jonathan, you mentioned a lot about the pines, and then also kind of the transition edges that Baxley's talking about, I think you're going to have a little bit higher odds, of course, of running across them. But if you can spend time out there turkey hunting and rabbit hunting, you're also going to be right in on top of where you should be finding antlers. It's like it's all what kind of works together if you do a little bit of all
exactly
that.
Right. Exactly right. Because usually, you know, right before green up, your food plots is going to be where your deer and turkey both are. So you really have a better chance of being on one of them food plots that time of the year before green up. So if they've lost any out there, they'll probably be, you know, right there on the edge of those green fields and food plots and everything, or over by your corn pile, however you're doing it.
What's the ratio to dead heads to sheds you find? Because I feel like, personally, I find way more dead heads, especially on public, than I do sheds.
I think I found 3 or 4 dead heads this year so far. I can't remember how many Hunter told me done found on sheds, like 15 or 16 sheds so far. Probably in the last 2 or 3 years after we started putting the whole pines together, it was a lot closer. But now the sheds have just went through the roof once I started getting away from the open woods and going into the pines now. I do see, you know, find dead heads in the pines. I mean, I love looking out through there. And once you see that old white nose rolled up, you know something's got that head pinned down to the ground, you know. So just them old doe heads just laying there and you just kind of walk on past them. But I love looking out there and seeing one of those big dead heads. But the dead heads has dropped off, though, and the sheds have went up since I've been in the pines more. But it's kind of a sweet spot in there. It's like you start getting into those 13, 15-year-old pines and you're not seeing them no more. You know, I guess that's enough time for the mice and all to just have them completely disintegrated. But it is that 8 to 10-year-old stuff.
The latter, you picked them all up.
That's very possible.
Because, I mean, how often do you go back and, like, walk the same thing over and over and over? Because I've gone out there literally, like, right after you before, and you were like, how did I miss that? I must have stepped right on it. And then I come back, I'm like, look what I found.
Yep.
Look what you missed. And
every time I do find one, I do, you know, drop a pin on it, and I will visit it the next year. There's times where if I've taken people with me out there, I usually don't I do a lot better hunting, scouting, shed hunting by myself. I can concentrate on what I'm doing. If I got somebody with me, and nothing against nobody, it's just I want to walk slow. And like my kids and all, they just want to barrel through there, and they usually come back empty-handed. Um, I'm not going to walk any faster than I can look a good 10-foot radius in front of me. So usually on those days that I do take people with me, I tend to go back on the days that I'm by myself and look at everything. So I guarantee there is a lot though that I've missed. And like you said, he did find a deadhead on a pond one time that I was just there a few days before that. But me and a buddy of mine, we were fishing slash, kind of looking over our shoulders for horns and deadheads, but we didn't do a real good job. So I missed it. He found it.
So there's quite a few things I want to ask about, as in like best conditions for shed hunting, but also, well, really that's the first one I want to kind of get into. I want to kind of go into shed hunting for specific deer, or if you've done that in the past. But first off, for conditions, you already mentioned you like to walk slow, take your time, and again, I think part of that is not only like just letting your eyes work a whole bunch, but also because even walking through those pines, you can't see very far. So it's not like you're watching a 60-yard radius around. You're able to cover a lot of ground just by scanning real quickly, looking for antlers. A little bit tighter cover, even in those pines, like you just can't see super far through that stuff. But what kind of conditions are like right for you that you're like, this is the day I need to go try to look for deadheads and sheds right now?
Now, this is something that is relatable to all the Midwest guys. Nothing like a good old cloudy, rainy day. Any day is a good day to be out in the woods. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you've only got one day off out of 7 days and it's bright and sunny, wear it out. But if I had to pick, I would definitely be out there on a cloudy day. It's something with the contrast, and the color. Usually when all the wood and everything gets wet, it seems to darken up a lot, and for some reason to me it makes the bone material kind of brighten up a little bit. Usually every single morning, not far after daylight, I'm hitting the woods before the sun gets up and brightens everything up, just so I could get that darker effect. It helps a lot. But if you can get a good cloudy, overcast day, and then maybe the night before it rained real good, like I said before, it pats all the leaves and everything down, it's hard to keep me out of the woods on those days. Those are by far my favorite. And if I could do it, without getting soaking wet, that'd be great. But I will go out there in a rain jacket just to walk around if I don't have nothing else going on. But yeah, especially walking speed. I want to be able to cover, everything in front of me out to about 10 feet. And if that means me walking 10 feet and stopping and looking left and right, kind of like coming to intersections, before you cross the road. It's never a steady walk. It's stopping and looking, because most of the time in the pines, especially, you're almost stepping on them before you know it. Every now and then you might see one 20, 30 yards ahead or so. Now, the hardwoods is completely different. You could take your binos with you and you can stand on one hillside and you can glass the whole hillside across. So, found several of them like that, especially on a cloudy, rainy day. They'll be plain as day and there's 80 yards away from you over there.